Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today, we're going to talk all about the passive voice. Now, I know this is a part of grammar which many people find very, very difficult, but actually, it's not so hard. So let's ask the question first: what is the passive voice? Well, the passive voice is a way that you can speak where you don't have to mention the subject, the person who's performing the action. Now, you might think that's a little bit strange. Why would you not want to mention who's doing an action? Well, there's a number of reasons for that. One reason might be if you're at a job interview and you want to talk about the job that you're applying for. You don't want to say, well, I think I'm the best person for the job because I'm the only one that's applied and I think I can do it without any problems. Because there's a lot of I in there, as I'm sure you've heard. At a job interview, it would be much better to say something like, the job needs to be done by someone who has a lot of experience, who can do this, who can do that. And by doing this, you're displacing the ego, and your focus is always on the action rather than who did the action. You don't have to leave it out completely. I mean, you can put at the end who's doing the action. Let me just give you a few examples, okay? So let's leave the job interviews for a moment. The bike was stolen. Now, why do I not say the bad man stole the bike? Or why do I not say John stole the bike? And it's simply because I don't know who stole the bike. Because I don't know who stole the bike, then that means that I can't use a subject. So I have no choice except to use the passive voice. Another reason might be if you can imagine that you're at work. If your boss always used the active voice, for example, John, you have completed that job. John, have you done this? It gets a bit tiresome because it sounds like he's maybe picking on you or bullying you. To pick on is to bully, it's a phrasal verb, okay? So if your boss says, has that job been completed yet? If he throws that question out to the whole team, that's very different from saying, John, have you done that? If he wants to know who did it, he can say, has that job been completed by the team yet? Or by John? Were you working on that? So you see, it's a little bit easy and more gentle to use the passive voice. Likewise, if you have a complaint and the man on the phone says, my invoice is too high, you have made a mistake, you can quickly diffuse the situation by saying things like, oh yes, I can see a mistake was made, rather than saying, oh yeah, I can see John made that mistake. Yeah. And you can take away the blame. Just a few more examples for you. Imagine you're at work and you work in IT and you have to close down the server for a few hours. Of course, you're not going to be popular if you do that. So instead of sending an email out saying, I'm going to close the servers for the next few hours because I have to work on them, an easier way would be to say, please note, the servers will not be working, or the servers will be closed for the next few hours. And that's it, So you're leaving yourself out of the situation because otherwise people are going to hate you. Likewise, if you compare, imagine you're at the train station and you hear a voice saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, please note I have cancelled all the trains for the rest of the day." You would be very, very bitter, and so would I if that was the case. But if a voice comes and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we regret to inform you that a decision has been made," or "cancellations will take place from now until the end of the day," we're not saying who's making them. And so it somehow makes it easier, So it helps to soften situations where someone is being blamed for something. And that, I think, is really, really important. All right. Okay. So those are just a few examples. So how do we make the passive voice? Well, we simply move the object to the beginning and we leave the subject out. Okay. So I stole the bike was stolen. I made a mistake was made. You can add in the end by if you want. And you can also use this in most tenses. For example, John will steal my bike will be stolen at 3:00. Okay. If you have foreknowledge of a situation. Okay. Another one might be something like, let's see, all trains will be cancelled. All trains have been cancelled. All trains were cancelled yesterday. And you can add at the end there by the railway company, by the department, but you want to make it a little bit less blameful than trying to allocate, a mistake to somebody. So that's why we have it. So let me just recap. We have the passive voice for 3 reasons. One, where we don't know who did the action. The other one, which is all about not wanting to say who did the action, in the case of work or a mistake being made. And there's a third reason. In an experiment at university, depending on your studies, your instructor, your lecturer, your mentor, he's going to tell you, make sure you write in the passive voice. Because if you're doing an experiment, for example, I put the salt in the water and then I waited half an hour to see what was going to happen. You can see in this case, it's no longer about the experiment, it's about you and what you were waiting for, and that's not good. So in the passive voice, in your research paper, it's going to be something like salt was placed in the water at 2:00. A 30-minute wait, or if you don't want to say it that way, you could say something like, while the salt was bubbling, another action was taking place. There was a gap, a space, or a wait while the results were forthcoming. So you see, that's a very different thing from saying, then I waited 30 minutes to see what was going to happen because I wanted to see. It's a way of displacing the I in order to focus on the experiment taking place, and the very same at job interviews as well. Well, this has just been a very brief introduction to the passive voice. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. See you. Bye.